Hi, welcome back to Loyaltiness channel. This is a channel where we talk about the laws of Ghana. So, okay, stay tuned. If you are new here, please subscribe. Today we are going to talk about breach of promise to marry. Yes, people ask that, oh, this guy promised me or this lady promised to marry me and he says he's no longer interested. Can I sue in him court? If I sue him, will the courts force him to marry me? I mean, if I have to get damages, what will the court give me? How much? And what will the court look at to see whether or not I deserve some compensation or not? What if I made properties with this person? Can I get a share of that property even though we were not married? If we did a business together, can I prove that I can get something out of it? What if you gave a gift to this person who has actually broken your heart because of the marriage? Can you ask for that property back? This and many other questions I'm going to talk about in respect of broken heart. So, hey, if you have suffered any form of broken heart before, or you know someone who has gone through something like this may be the video for him. Please share and let's all learn together. So in law, we see that the promise to marry is just like a contract. So if someone says, I will marry you, and you also say, I will, then that is a contract because there is an agreement and then somebody has also accepted and have agreed to marry you. And so those two exchange of promises translate to a contract, right? So if someone says that I will marry you and then they say I will no longer marry you, then the law says that the contract has been breached. And that is what we say, breach of promise to marry. The promise to marry you has been breached, or the person has disrespected the agreement that both of you made. What would we look at to see that there was an agreement? So the best thing to see is that, oh, I made a statement that I will marry you. It was by word of mouth, or it was by words. Apart from words, it can also be by action. So sometimes the person may not just say I'll marry you, but the person will say I'll marry you and add subsequent things to it that shows that this one, there's only one intention, that he or she would marry you. Example of these actions are maybe the person will go and see your family, send some drinks. You know, in Ghana, the custom, you have to go and do some knocking rights in most cultures. So this person goes to your family and do knocking rights. The only meaning that can be given to these actions is that this person intends to marry my son or my daughter. And so it means that action alone, the action of going to knock in somebody's house, not literally like knock knock, but the knocking rights, that I have come, please give me a list of things to buy. That means that you intend to marry the person. Sometimes the person will introduce you to their family and say, this is Chrissy that I want to marry. So some people will post everywhere. If it's Facebook, they'll say, I have posted everywhere on Facebook that this is my to-be wife, or I'm about to marry her. There's a save the date. Or there are some things I have done on my WhatsApp statuses, giving a very strong impression to people that this lady, I have declared to the whole world, to her, to her family, everybody, that I intend to marry her. And that promise can be backed by words, not just by words, but by actions, by evidence, and so anything that you can use to show. Remember that breach of promise to marry is not just something that a woman can go to court for. A man can also go to court for a breach of promise to marry, because promise to marry is not just one-sided, it is two-sided. A man can make a promise, a woman can also make a promise. So if a man makes a promise to marry a woman and the woman breaks that promise, then that is a breach. Same way, if a woman makes a promise to marry a man, or a woman agrees or accepts to marry a man and she changes her mind in the middle. You know, people lie so many times, and so sometimes you say that, oh, he said that he will marry me, and the person will say, I didn't say anything like that. So don't think that at the point that you have to prove that somebody promised to marry you, the person will admit that they promised to marry you. Sometimes they will deny it totally, completely, that they never made any such promises to you. So please look out for all the things that you can use to prove. And I'm telling you that you can use words, you can use WhatsApp messages, you can use implied things. It can be that you were living in Cape Coast, and then this person said, okay, move here, come and join me in Tamale. And then you went there, left your job, went to Tamale, and then you guys have been living together because everybody knows that you guys are preparing for marriage. Those two things can be put together, or three things can be put together for everybody to know that, oh, these people, it can support the position of maybe the man that they agreed to marry, even if one person is denying it. So don't just be there and think that just because I don't have any evidence to show, but we're living together. Living together can be something that will support your word of mouth to actually help the court to conclude that there was actually a promise to marry. Now, how do you say that the person has breached the promise to marry? The person has breached the promise to marry is that, okay, he made a promise that maybe he'll marry me in 2 years, he has not married me, or in 3 years, or when his father dies, but he has not done it. Sometimes it can be that he gave you a specific time, and that time has passed, and so because of that means he has breached the promise to marry you, or that he promised to marry you within a reasonable time, and then within a reasonable time you have waited for 5 years, 10 years, he's not marrying you. The law says that if you promise to marry someone within a reasonable time, then we will look at what is reasonable time. If both of you cannot decide, we'll look at the circumstances to decide whether or not a particular time is a reasonable time. So now, if the person also says that, oh, I'll marry you if my father dies, then you have to wait till the father dies period to come before you say that he has refused to marry me. But then there are some actions that they may take that will make you know that, oh, this one, the time has not come, but it looks like he will not marry me. So maybe he says that, oh, I'll marry you when my father dies. But then, before the father dies, he has gone to marry someone, maybe under ordinance or something that looks like you don't have any chance of being married to this man or this woman. Immediately this happens, then you know that this person has breached his promise. Apart from that, he may just say that, you know, I was the one who told you that I want to marry you. I don't want to marry you again. Immediately he tells you this expressly, whether by text message or whether by WhatsApp, whatever it is. Please take notice that the person has breached the promise to marry you, and now you have to look at whether or not you have an action in court against the person. We are not saying that every promise to marry is something that you can go to court for. No. But then what we are saying is that if the circumstances of your relationship is such that you have lost something, whether emotional, whether economical, whether it's whatever thing you can prove to show that because of this and this, the marriage did not come up, but I have lost something, or this man has done this in a particular way that he deserved to be given some damages because of the breach, so that it will be a punitive one. It has to be something that will look punitive, so that he will not just go about making promises to everybody. It doesn't mean that as you are walking on the street, anybody you see and they say, I'll marry you, I'll marry you. No. It has to be something that is calculated, that everybody will know that this one, we actually agreed to marry, that he has gone his way to breach the contract without a reason. The fact that you make a promise to anybody at all does not mean that you should marry them. So the law has given you a defense. If you look at the defense that, oh, maybe this person has a bad character you didn't know of, you found out after you actually proposed marriage to the person, then you have to prove that bad character and say this and this and this are the reasons why I have said that I can no longer marry the person. You can also prove that this person is unchaste, or she's a prostitute, or he's a prostitute, to let the court know that this was not how the person was at the beginning of your relationship. And so if you went out there to make a proposal to someone who you know sleeps around with everybody, then you cannot come and say that you have a defense in law for breaching your promise because the person has now been caught in some infidelity. No, because you actually know this person already, and you could have stopped this at the very beginning, but you didn't do that. You can also show that after you made the promise, the person has become insane, has become insane in the sense that you has lost his mind or her mind and you can no longer marry the person under law, and so that is why you are cancelling the proposal. That is also acceptable. It also show that the person committed some kind of fraud with you, a fraud that you cannot accept at the moment. Maybe you're about to enter the marriage and then there's a revelation that the person has lied to you about something as huge as maybe he has a wife under custom somewhere, or the person does not have what he says he has. Maybe that was important to you. You made it very clear to the person that this is important to you. Or the person has lied about something which was grave or very, very important to you. And then you say that was fraudulent. But you can base on that to end the agreement that you have with this person. You can also show that the person has a bodily infirmity, some particular sickness that will make it very hard for you to live with a person. Maybe it is infectious, maybe it is a long-lasting kind of sickness, something that you cannot actually bear with, and you didn't know this before you made the proposal to him or her. If you have this as a defense, that will be acceptable, so that you will not have to be charged with damages or what have you in court for you to pay for a breach of promise to marry him or her. Then you can also say that, oh, all of us agreed for the proposal or agreement to end. So, oh yeah, she agreed that she will not marry me again. Oh, I also agreed that I will not marry her again. That was the end of it. That will be better. It will be like it was a mutual release. It was not forced on anybody. No, we all agree that this marriage or this relationship will not work. So let's not proceed further. If you're able to show that, that's a good defense in law, and then you can be freed from that. Let me take note that if someone breaches their promise to marry you, the court cannot force him or her to marry. So there are some customs that, or some customary practice that will say that, you say you not marry me again, so please come and marry me and divorce me. That kind of practice will not be upheld in our court, because you cannot force anybody to marry somebody. No. The best the court can do for you is to give you monetary compensation. Monetary compensation. What will go into the monetary compensation? The court can say, okay, this one is just general damages. You have breached this person's promise to marry her. Maybe you've caused her some emotional pain. You have caused her some loss of expectations, and so she will give you this particular amount to pay for the breach of the promise or the breach of the contract. That's number one. Then we have what we get, special damages. Special damages is when you have to prove that because of this and that and that, I have lost this and that and that. So maybe there was a case that somebody will say, you know, I'm about to marry you. Oh, so you are a teacher here. Okay, I'm also living here because of this. Oh, resign. Come here, I will marry you. So there's no need for you to even continue with this teaching thing. Then this lady stops the teaching, comes to join you wherever you are, whether you're in Kumasi or Tamale, and then she comes there in view that you marry her very soon. Same can happen to a man, so please don't get me wrong. It's both sides. So now this man or this woman leaves her job, joins you, preparing for the marriage, then all of a sudden you find someone else and say that I will not marry you again. You have made this person lose her job, her reasonable expectation that she will be in the work for a long time, get her own money and take care of herself. You've made her lost it, and you made her lose her reasonable expectation that she would have gotten a man who will support her in her basic needs while she's maybe looking for a new job and all of that. And you gave her an assurance that you take care of her and all of that. The court will look at all of these things, put them together and say, no, this is not just something that will give you a general damage to. This is something which is very special because this woman or this man has lost something very special to her. Or maybe there's a man who is about to travel outside the country, he had the option to travel with maybe the sisters or the brothers. Then because you promised to marry him, she let all those things go and foot a bill for you to travel with you. After paying of all of those expenses, now you come back to say, I won't marry you again. Immediately there are some special damages that the court will have to look out for and take it for the man, because you've made the man lose something special, something personal, something that he can prove in court, that we have to give some special damages. And so those special damages will be huge. It can be huge, it can be huge depending on the circumstances of the case. So the example of the one who was traveling that I used, this clearly shows that if the man shows all the travel expenses and everything he has made in connection with this marriage proposal, then the court are likely to tell you to pay, because you have deceived him and you have breached the promise and you have made him lose something special because he was relying on your promise to marry you. Yes, there are very special circumstances where people who are in a relationship make properties together, or they start businesses together. If you have been here before, we have learned about properties which were acquired during marriage. There are a lot of presumptions for properties acquired during marriage that the law presumes that you did that equally. If both of you acquired the property during the marriage, then you got all of that together, you can share it equally. That's a presumption. Please remember that there is no such presumption in relationships. We don't say that just because you guys were in a relationship between 2020 to 2025, every car that your boyfriend or your girlfriend buys is for both of you. No, we don't have a presumption like that. Because of that, you have to get receipt for everything you do with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, because you may never know. If you start a business with her, please keep records of how you started it, the agreement. If you don't have an agreement, at least you should have text messages. You should have things that you did, things that you can show that this is a receipt of what I did to support this. This is what I also did to support that. Have evidence, concrete. It can be human being giving evidence, it can be receipts, it can be writings, it can be text messages and WhatsApp messages. Don't think that anybody will say that both of you did it just because you guys were living together. No. If you were not married under the laws of Ghana, whether custom, whether Islamic, whether ordinance, then we will not presume that you made the property together just because you were living together. Yes, if you also give a gift to someone because of the cessation of marriage, the law and the court will help you to get that property back. So let's say you bought an engagement ring to the person. Because of the marriage, you get it back. I'm not saying if you bought birthday gifts and all of that, no. But things that you bought in view of the marriage, in expectation of the marriage. Maybe you went to buy lists of things for the knocking right or for the marriage right. Because you bought this for the person in view of the marriage that is coming, then the court will help you to get that back because you bought those things in view of the marriage. And so if the marriage did not come up, then the court should give you the permission to get what you are entitled to. I know you have questions. Please let me know what your questions are. I will answer them until we meet again. Please take good care of yourself, and hey, be careful. Get reasonable people for your next relationships, and when you are breaking up with someone, please be gentle and kind and have good reasons. Take care and have a good time. Bye.